You know, Luann said a little while later, if that had been on Hell, he would have given himself 2 points for every one he could hit. Knowing that Turtle's first uttered sound was a laugh brought me into no relief. If I had dragged her halfway across the nation only to neglect and entirely botch her upbringing, would she have laughed? I thought surely not. She would have been bided her time while she saved up whole words, even sentences. Things like, what do you think you're doing? I suppose someone Luann had rubbed off on me for me to take the sign as a laugh as a sign. Luann was the one who read her horoscope every day, and mine, and Dwayne Ray's, and fretted that we would never know Turtle's true sign. It would seem to me the least of her worries, and was sworn to a strange kind of logic that said a man could leave his wife for missing a meteor shower, or buying the wrong brand of cookies. If the mail came late, it meant someone, like mostly Grandmother Logan, had died. But neither of us could interpret the significance of Turtle's first word. It was bean. We were in Maddie's backyard helping her put in the summer garden, which she said was way overdue considering the weather. Maddie's motto seemed to be, don't let the grass grow under your feet, but make sure there's something growing everywhere else. Looky here, Turtle, I said. We're planting a garden just like old MacDonald in your book. Maddie rolled her eyes. I think her main motive in insisting that Turtle watch us do this was to straighten the child out. She was concerned that Turtle would grow up thinking carrots grew under the rug. Here are squash seeds, I said. Here's pepper seeds, and here's eggplants. Turtle looked thoughtfully at the little flat discs. That's just going to discombobble her, Maddie said. Those seeds don't look anything like what you're saying they'll grow into. When kids are that little, they don't take much on faith. Oh, I said. It seemed to me that Turtle had to take practically everything on faith. Show her something that looks like what you eat. I scooped a handful of big white beans out of Maddie's jar. These are beans. Remember white bean soup with ketchup? You like that? Bean, Turtle said. Bean. I looked at Maddie. Well, just don't sit there. The child's talking to you, Maddie said. I picked up Turtle and gave her a hug. That's right, that's a bean. And you're just about the smartest kid alive, I told her. Maddie just smiled. As I planted the beans, Turtle followed me down the road, digging each one up after I planted it, and putting it back in the jar. Good girl, I said. I could see a whole new era arriving in Turtle's and my life. Maddie suggested that I give her some of my own beans to play with. And I did. The land's warning about white windpipes and golf balls was following me wherever I went these days. These are for you to keep, I explained to Turtle. Don't eat them. These are playing with beans. There's eating beans at home, and the rest of these in here are putting in the ground beans. Honest to God, I believe she understood that. For the next half hour, she sat quietly between two squash hills, playing with her own beans. Finally, she buried them there on the spot where they were forgotten by all until quite a while later, when a ferocious thicket of beans came flying up through the squashes. On the way home, Turtle pointed out to me every patch of bare dirt beside the sidewalk. Bean, she told me. Luann was going through a phase of cutting her own hair every other day. In a matter of fact, it had gone from shoulder length to what she referred to as shingled, passing through several stages with figure skaters' names in between. I don't know about shingles, I said, but you got to draw the line somewhere or you're going to end up like this guy that comes out of Maddie's all the time with a mohawk. He has Born to Die tattooed on the bald part of his scalp. I might as well just shave it off, said Luann. I don't think she was really listening. She possessed this type of blonde, bone-straight hair that was, for a brief period in history, the envy of every teenage female alive. I remember when the older girls spoke so endlessly of bleaching and ironing techniques, you'd think their hair was something to be thrown in a white load of wash. Luann would have been in high school by then. She was a few years older than me. But she probably missed this whole craze. She would have been too concerned with having the wrong kid, the wrong kind of this or that. She told me that in high school she prayed every night for glamour girl legs, which meant that you could put dimes between the knees, calves, and ankles, and they would have stayed put. She claimed her calves would have taken a softball. I'm certain Luann never even noticed that for one whole year, her hair was utterly perfect. It looked like a plum dyed, she said, tugging on a straight lock over one eyebrow. I was tempted to remind her that anything subjected so frequently to a pair of scissors wouldn't likely survive. But of course I didn't. I always tried to be positive with her, although I learned that even compliments were kind of an insult to Luann, causing her to wrinkle her face and advise me to make an appointment with an eye doctor. She despised her looks and had more ways of saying so than anyone I ever known. I ought to be shot for looking like this, she'd tell the mirror in the front hall before going outdoors. I look like I've been drugged through the heck backwards, she would say on just any ordinary day. Like death warmed over, like something the cat puked up. I wanted the mirror to talk back to say, shh, you do not. But naturally it just mouthed the same words back at her. Lingered so forlorn that I was often tempted to stick little notes on it. I thought of my t-shirt, Turtles Now, from Kentucky Lake. Luann needed a darn good mirror. On this particular night, we had invited Esperanza and Estevan over for dinner. Maddie was going to be on TV on the 6 o'clock news, and Luann had suggested inviting them over to watch it on a television set we didn't have. She was constantly forgetting about the things, Melodies, on how it had taken, generously offering to loan them out, and so forth. We settled it, however, by also inviting some neighbors Luann knew who had a portable TV. She said she'd been meaning to have them over anyway, that they were very nice. Their names were Edna Poppy and Virgie Mae Valentine Parsons, or so their mailbox said. I hadn't met them, but before I moved in, she said they had kept Dwayne away many a time, including once when Luann had to rush Snow Boots to the vet for eating a mothball. Eventually, Luann gave up on berating her hair and set the iron board in the kitchen. I was cooking. We had worked things out. I cook on weekends, and also on any weeknight that Luann had kept Turtle. It would be kind of a payment, and she would do the vacuuming because she liked to, and I'd wash the dishes because I didn't mind them. And on the 7th day, we washed bean turds. I pronounced. Before it had seemed picayune to get all bent out of shape organizing the household chores. Now, I was beginning to see the point. The rent utilities we split 50-50. Luann had savings left from Angel's disability insurance settlement. For some reason, she hadn't touched this money. And also he sent checks. But once in a while, in a blue moon, I worried about what she would do when the well went dry. But I decided I might just as well let her run her own life. For the party, I was making sweet and sour chicken, more or less on a dare, at one end of Luann's magazines. The folks at Burger Derby should see me now, I thought. I had originally planned to make navy bean soup in celebration of Turtle's first word. By the end of the week, she had said so many new words, I couldn't fit them all in a Hungarian goulash. She seemed to have a one-track vocabulary, like Luann's hypochondriac mother-in-law. Though fortunately, Turtles ran to vegetables instead of diseases. I could just imagine a conversation between these two. Sciatica, hives, rosola, meningomalacia. Mrs. Ruse would say in her accented English. Corns, tato, bean, Turtle would reply. What's so funny? Luann wanted to know. I hope I can even fit into this dress. I should have tried it on first. I haven't worn it since before Dwayne Ray. I noticed that Luann measured many things in her life, besides her figure, in terms of before and after Dwayne Ray. You'll fit into it, I said. Have you weighed yourself lately? No, and I don't want to know what I weigh. If the scale even goes up that high. I refuse to believe you're overweight. That's all I'm saying. If you say one more word about being fat, I'm going to stick my fingers in my ear and sing Blue Bayou until you're done. She wasn't quiet for a minute. The hiss of the steam iron and the smell of warm, damp cotton reminded me of Sunday afternoons with Mama. What's Maddie going to be on TV about? Do you know, she asked. I'm not sure. It has something to do with people that live with her. Oh, I'd be petrified to be on TV. I know I would, Luann said. I'm afraid I would just blurt out underpants or something. When I was a little girl, I would get afraid in church during the invocation or some other time when it got real quiet, and I'd all of a sudden be terrified that I was going to stand up and holler, God's pee-pee. I laughed. Oh, I know it sounds ridiculous. I mean, I didn't even know if God had one. In the pictures, he's always got on those robes and things. But the fact that I even wondered about it seemed just an ultimate sin. If I was bad enough to think it, how did I know I was going to stand up and say? I know what you mean, I said. There's this Catholic priest that comes to Maddie's all the time, Father William. He's real handsome. I think he's your type, maybe not. But sometimes I get to thinking, what if I were to strut over there and say something like, hey, good looking, what you got cooking? Exactly, it's like, did you ever have this feeling when you're standing next to a cliff, say, or by an upstairs window, and you can just picture yourself jumping out? The worst time it happened to me was in high school. On our senior trip, we went to the state capital, which was at Frankfurt. Of course, you know that. What am I saying? So what happened was, you can go way up in the dome, and there's only this railing, and you look down, and the people are just like miniature ants. And I saw myself just hoisting my legs and going over. I just froze up. I thought, if I can't think, I might do it. My boyfriend, which at the time was Eddie Tubbs, his way before I met on Hill, thought it was the fear of heights, and told everybody on the bus on the way home that I had acrophobia. But it was way more complicated than that. I mean, acrophobia doesn't have anything to do with being afraid to holler out something god-awful in church, does it? No, I said, I think what you mean is a totally different phobia. Fear that the things you imagine will turn out real. Exactly. Luann was staring at me, transfixed. You know, I think you're the first person I ever told this to that understood what I was talking about. I shrugged. I saw a Star Trek episode one time that was along those lines. All the women on this whole planet ended up naked. I can't remember exactly, but then Captain Kirk gets turned into a pipe wrench. The 6 o'clock news was half over by the time we got the TV plugged in. There had been a mix-up with the women next door, who were waiting for us to come over and get the television. They didn't realize they had been invited for dinner. Meanwhile, Esteban and Esperanza arrived. Esteban played the gentleman flirt, saying how nice I looked, and didn't he perhaps know my tomboy sister, who worked with a used tire firm? Exquisite, was what he actually said, and tomboy as if it were 2 words. I batted my eyelashes and said yes indeed, that she was the sister who got all the brains of the family.